In the late 19th century, archaeologists digging in southern Mesopotamia began uncovering a new kind of settlement. Beneath later cities, they found older layers, villages with long, low houses and distinctive painted pottery. The people who lived here belonged to what we now call the Ubaid culture, and their discoveries raised a series of questions. Who were these early settlers? Who built some of the first temples in Mesopotamia centuries before the rise of Sumer? How did their small communities evolve into the earliest cities? And what does their world reveal about the origins of civilization itself? The Ubaid period stretches across centuries. It is not a single culture in a single place, but a horizon of shared practices and objects that spread across a wide region. What makes the Ubaid important is not spectacle but accumulation. Small innovations, a canal here, a kiln there, a communal shrine rebuilt generation after generation, add up to a new social world. Start with water. Irrigation in the Ubaid was not monumental engineering but careful local management. Canals, field walls, and bunds that turned seasonal floods into predictable harvests. Reliable harvests create possibilities. When food is less precarious, some people can specialize. Potters, weavers, and metal workers emerge. Tools and techniques improve. Production becomes more organized. Pottery is the clearest signature of Ubaid identity. The ware is often plain, sometimes painted with simple geometric motifs, and it appears across hundreds of sites. That ubiquity is a kind of cultural glue. Alongside pottery, small stamp seals and tokens appear. These modest objects hint at administrative needs, marking property, controlling access, or recording exchanges in a world where goods and people move farther than before. Settlement patterns change. Where earlier groups lived in small hamlets, Ubaid communities become larger and more permanent. Mud brick houses cluster into neighborhoods, and some sites show long sequences of rebuilding. Certain places stand out. Eridu and Tel Al Ubaid show repeated building phases and structures that archaeologists interpret as temple like. These are not palaces, they are communal centers where ritual, craft, and storage intersect. The repeated rebuilding of a shrine tells us something crucial: social memory. People returned to the same place, invested labor and resources, and maintained a shared set of practices across generations. Ritual buildings likely served multiple roles. They were places of worship, yes, but also nodes of redistribution, craft coordination, and social negotiation. Ritual and economy were braided together. Social differentiation appears in the record, but it is uneven. Some houses are larger, some graves richer, but the Ubaid world lacks the rigid palace hierarchies of later city states. Leadership seems situational and often tied to ritual authority. Think of the Ubaid as a patchwork, communities experimenting with new ways of organizing labor and resources, connected by networks of exchange and shared material culture. Long distance exchange intensifies. Shells from the Gulf, stones from distant hills, and stylistic influences travel along river and overland routes. These connections amplify local innovations and spread ideas. Trade is not just about goods, it is about people, knowledge, and social practices. A pottery form adopted in one valley can become a regional standard in another, creating a shared vocabulary of objects. Craft specialization becomes more visible. Workshops, toolkits, and production debris cluster in certain parts of settlements. Skilled artisans refine techniques and produce goods that circulate beyond their home village. Administration grows in modest ways. Tokens, seals, and standardized containers suggest systems of control and exchange. These are the precursors of the record keeping that will later define urban states. Environmental factors matter. River courses shift, climates fluctuate, and arable land changes. But environment alone does not explain the Ubaid. Human choices, social networks, and cultural innovations are equally decisive. The most persuasive explanations combine ecology and agency. Irrigation made surplus possible, surplus enabled specialization, specialization required coordination, coordination fostered institutions. Regional diversity is a defining feature. Northern Ubaid communities differ from southern ones. Coastal settlements adapt differently than inland villages. The Ubaid horizon is flexible and locally inflected. This diversity matters because it shows that urbanism did not emerge from a single blueprint. It emerged from many local experiments, some of which scaled up into larger centers. As the Ubaid period progresses, the ingredients for cities accumulate: organized irrigation, specialized production, communal architecture, and networks of exchange. These are the building blocks of urban life. The transition to the Uruk period is a change of scale more than a change of kind. Uruk amplifies Ubaid processes into monumental architecture, complex administration, and far reaching trade networks, but continuity remains. Pottery traditions persist, ritual practices continue, and irrigation knowledge carries forward. The first cities inherit the tools and habits of the Ubaid world. Scholars debate drivers: environmental stress, demographic pressure, trade, or social innovation. The best accounts treat the Ubaid as a web of interacting causes rather than a single explanation. One useful image is that of scaffolding. The Ubaid builds scaffolding, social, technological, and ritual, that later societies used to erect larger structures. The scaffolding is often invisible in grand narratives, but it is essential. Every shard of pottery, every spindle whorl, every foundation trench is a small piece of evidence for that scaffolding. These fragments tell us about everyday life, how people cooked, clothed themselves, and organized labor. The Ubaid period also teaches us about contingency. Not every innovation succeeds everywhere. Some communities adopt new practices, others resist. The outcome depends on local choices and historical accidents. That contingency is important because it reminds us that history is not teleological. Cities are not inevitable. They are one possible outcome of many interacting processes. For modern audiences, the Ubaid offers a corrective to grand narratives of sudden invention. It shows that monumental change often grows from modest, cumulative practices. It also highlights the role of ordinary people. The rise of civilization is not only the story of rulers and elites, but of potters, canal diggers, ritual specialists, and families who invested in shared futures. So, what is the Ubaid legacy? It is the set of practices that made cities possible: irrigation know how, craft specialization, communal architecture, and networks of exchange. It is also a lesson in scale and patience. Great transformations often require centuries of small coordinated steps. As we close, picture again the marshes and channels of southern Mesopotamia. Picture people shaping clay, rebuilding shrines, and moving water with patient hands. These are the scenes of the Ubaid period, ordinary acts multiplied across generations that produce extraordinary change. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe for more explorations of ancient worlds. There is always more to discover in the quiet places where history begins.